says he spoke to Maurice Payne about providing military technical support. Can you spell out what that would include?
Well, I don't think it is appropriate for me to go into details of what are effectively very sensitive matters, particularly given we are in a situation in Ukraine where we have Russian troops amassed on the border. And so we are working very closely with our partners right across the region in Europe and more broadly. That involves the actions we would take with sanctions should Russia follow through on their threats of violence and intimidation on Ukraine. And while I would hope that these last gasp diplomatic efforts will have some success, what we can't abide is authoritarian regimes threatening and intimidating their neighbours for the purpose of trying to grab some sort of advantage. The threats against Ukraine are uninvited, unprovoked, unwarranted and unacceptable. And we cannot have a situation where any authoritarian regime and autocratic power can go and seek to use bullying and intimidation as a way of extracting advantage. There's a lot at stake here in terms of what's happening in Ukraine. We see this in our own region, and our government has stood up more to that threats of intimidation more than any other government before. When it comes to seeing that, you have to go back to the Second World War. And so our government will continue to be strong against threats of intimidation against Australia. I mean, we've seen over the weekend, you would have seen the reports of a Chinese naval vessel using a laser to target an Australian Defence Force surveillance aircraft. This is completely unacceptable. And so we have demanded there be an investigation on the behaviour of what occurred on that vessel. It was dangerous, it was reckless, and it was unprofessional for what should be a sophisticated Navy. So we expect China to provide some answers on those matters, and we are going through those appropriate channels to achieve that. And we expect, and not just Australia, all countries in the region demand an answer to this, because it's an Australian surveillance aircraft this time. Who's next? And so it's very important that China explain themselves for this act of recklessness in our exclusive economic zone. They had every right to be there and travelling through those waters, just as Australian vessels has every right to be up through the South China Sea, as well as the British and the Americans and the Japanese and the French and the Germans and the Canadians and everyone else sails through there. But it's not okay to be doing what occurred there on the weekend, and we expect a full explanation.
In the past, the government's been reluctant to publicly name China when laser attacks have occurred. What's changed? Why has the government been so quick to call this out?
Well, it happened, and it is indisputable. It was a Chinese naval vessel. It wasn't operating under some other flag. I mean, it was possible that people could even see the vessel from our mainland, potentially. And so we disclosed it, which is entirely appropriate. And we disclosed it because this needs to be called out. This is not okay. And there needs to be an explanation, not just to Australia, but all peace-loving nations within our region. We can't have this sort of behaviour going on in our region. It's not on.